The Stone Zone, with your host, Roger Stone. Roger served as a senior campaign aide to 3 Republican presidents, is a New York Times best-selling author, and a longtime friend of President Donald Trump. As an outspoken libertarian, Stone has appeared on thousands of broadcasts, spoken at countless venues, and lectured before Oxford Union Society and the Cambridge Union Society. Due to his 4+ decades in the political and cultural arena, Roger has become a pop culture icon. And now, here is your host, Roger Stone.
Welcome, folks. You have entered the Stone Zone. Coming up shortly, we have the documentary filmmaker, Joel Gilbert. Now, Joel Gilbert collaborated with me in the extraordinary documentary, Banished, the Danny Williams story, in 2016, which got over 38 million downloads across the nation on various platforms. Banished, the Danny Williams story, was the completely true and accurate story of the illegitimate son of Bill Clinton, who was an African American, but who was supported by Bill Clinton until he was banished by Bill Clinton's wife, Hillary Clinton. 38 million people saw this terrific documentary. For me, it's what first got Joel Gilbert on my radar. Joel Gilbert has produced, I think, as many as 6, perhaps 7 individual documents on Bob Dylan. My favorite one is about Bob Dylan's redemption in Christ in his religious period, but I think it would be fair to say that Joel Gilbert could be the world's leading expert on the perhaps one of the greatest rockers of all time, Bob Dylan. Kind of interesting that Bob Dylan started as a folk singer. Then, of course, he went electric at the Newport Folk Festival, which caused an extraordinary uproar. And then, of course, he had his redemption in Jesus Christ. My favorite song, You Gotta Serve Somebody. Do we have Joel Gilbert on the line yet?
Yes, we do.
Excellent. Let's go to documentary filmmaker Joel Gilbert. He has an extraordinary track record, including a couple of my favorites, but my all-time favorite, Trump, The Art of the Insult, his historic Dreams of My Real Father, a story of Reds and Deceptions. You can go to his filmography online. Just don't read the bio on Wikipedia because it is distorted, false, and BS. Joining us now from Hollywood, California, it is none other than my favorite documentary filmmaker, Joel Gilbert. Joel, welcome to the Stone Zone.
Hey, Roger, so happy to see you.
I appreciate your jumping in here at the last minute. We had another guest that canceled, and Joel graciously agreed to join us. Joel's next upcoming project caused quite an uproar at CPAC. Let's roll 30 seconds of that tape, if we may.
Ladies and gentlemen, former Assistant Secretary of the Treasury for Public Affairs, Monica Crawley.
I'm going to toss a grenade out here. They could run Michelle Obama.
Oh.
And if they do, and my friend Joel Gilbert has been doing a lot of research into Michelle's background. He's got a documentary and a book coming out in the summer on her. If they were to run Michelle Obama, that would put us in a very difficult position.
And there you have it, my friend Monica Crowley from the Nixon days, a tremendous advocate for freedom in her own right, breaking big news that I happen to agree with. I honestly believe people need to understand the tension between the Obamas and the Clintons. They do not like each other. There is deep resentment that Barack Obama, seemingly coming out of nowhere, defeated Hillary Clinton, who believed she was next in line for the presidency after her husband. She got the nomination as a consolation prize 4 years later. because the Clintons and the Obamas are completely familiar with each other's crimes. The Obamas had to go through the motions of supporting Hillary Clinton's campaign. But I have already said, and I firmly believe, said this on the Alex Jones show 2 days ago, that after the midterms, that the Democrats themselves will remove President Joe Biden under the 25th Amendment. Please recognize that they're going to lionize him while they're doing this. They're going to tell you what a great statesman he is. They're going to tell you how tragic it is that his failing health will no longer allow him to discharge the duties as president. That would, of course, elevate Kamala Harris, the vice president, to be president of the United States. Think about listening to that hyena laugh every single day. Under those circumstances, of course, Kamala Harris could nominate a vice president, and that vice president could be Michelle Obama, or they nominate some other non-viable Democrat who doesn't get into what I believe is the master plan, which is to say the nomination of Michelle Obama as the Democratic standard bearer in 2024. Joel Gilbert has done a deep dive on Michelle Obama, and now he's going to tell us all about it.
Okay, thanks, Roger. Well, I do have, as Monica said, both a book and film coming out. July 11 is going to be the release date. And what I did is I went from the ground up and investigated Michelle Obama like no one has ever done. She's had 5 or 6 biographies written. They're all, by friends in the media. So I looked at her official story, which is she was an underprivileged kid. She was held back in life because of her skin color. She suffered racism. And I actually went to Chicago and went through every facet of her life: elementary school, high school, dance classes, Princeton University, you name it. I spoke to her mother, high school teachers, elementary school teachers, elementary school friends and kids in her neighborhood, her hairdresser, everybody. And I have a completely different picture of Michelle that I can show you, that she really was a privileged kid from a political family. Her father was a precinct captain. In Chicago, a precinct captain is like a mayor of the area they live in. And far from being part of a class of black community that suffered racism, I can prove that Michelle, in fact, has been running from the black community her whole life and has always sold them out every chance she got in her life. And when she wants political power, she pretends to be one of these ordinary black people that she claims to have had experiences with. In fact, she's very much like Barack in that she doesn't have any experiences with the black community and is not considered to have any street cred, not considered to be authentically black due to her lack of experience in the black community. As you know, she went to Whitney Young Magnet School, Princeton, got a job at the mayor's office working for Mayor Richard Daley, University of Chicago, where she was famous for her patient dumping scheme. And she has a very sordid history working with Valerie Jarrett at the Chicago mayor's office in the planning department, where her job was to help knock down the projects and kick out the black people living in those large communities like Cabrini Green and pave the way for the white developers and Democrat Party donors to build new housing. So I document this whole story chronologically. And I also make the case that not only is her life story not what she claimed, but she's following the exact same path that Barack did to become president. Barack was the keynote speaker for John Kerry in 2004. Michelle was the keynote speaker for Joe Biden. That's the slot that they reserve for who they think will be the next nominee. Barack started his political career with a voter registration organization called Project Vote. To this day, Michelle is pushing When We All Vote. She just did a video with Stacey Abrams. She's going to be here in LA speaking. And of course, Barack based his candidacy on his personal story. His book, Dreams from My Father, Michelle wrote Becoming, 10 million selling book, which is really a political document. It's not even an autobiography. It's a way to reshape her life story to run for president. And she's still promoting that book and her life story. So I see the same path being followed. And if you look at Michelle's Twitter account, she's all politics all the time. That comparison to the Clintons is interesting because the Clintons were honest. They said, when you vote for Bill, you get 2 for 1. You get Hillary 2 for 1. Michelle is actually more political than Barack. She's a better politician, speaks with better emotion. She's more authentic. And what happened is she kind of went over the top. She was so political in 2008. People remember when she said, "First time I'm proud of my country." And they decided, oops, we better just bury her a little bit. So that's when they came up with the cover story. They said, Michelle hates politics. Well, you could say all politicians hate politics, but Michelle is very much preparing for the last 5 years. And to this day, I believe to run for president in 2024. And I make the case in this film and book, as well as show her entire life history is not what she has presented all these years.
Logan, let's show the terrific cover for that book since we've got it. There you go. Michelle Obama, 2024, her real life story and plan for power. This is going to be a powerful documentary as well as a powerful book. I had the privilege of screening an early rush of this, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, and I must tell you, this is one of the most prophetic and powerful documentaries you have made. I have to ask you about this because I'm a fan. Tell us about your history with Bob Dylan and tell us about the great Dylan documentaries you have made.
Okay, thanks. Well, I worked at Paramount Pictures actually in the finance department for about a year when I first came to LA. Then I started my own production company, and I'm a big fan of Bob Dylan's music. I actually wrote a book called The Acoustic Bob Dylan because I studied his guitar styles, and people said I looked like him and I even talked like him and kind of sang like him. So I realized if I just focus on performing Dylan songs myself, I could play music and perform instead of trying to learn a lot of different styles. So I ran into Mickey Jones, who was the drummer for Trini Lopez and Johnny Rivers, and he was also later an actor on Home Improvement. And he was Bob Dylan's first electric tour drummer in England in 1966. And he lived not far from me here in, near Simi Valley. And he actually said, hey, I got a lot of home movies I took of Bob Dylan in 1966. They're in my garage somewhere. I said, well, let's go dig them out. So I found these home movies and did a first film I made independent called Bob Dylan 1966 World Tour of the Home Movies. And that took off. That was 2001, worldwide coverage. And that led me to do another film on Dylan based on his next period, 1974. And I just kept progressing through his career because each film did so well. My distributor kept saying, can you do another one? So the one you mentioned, of course, Bob Dylan's Jesus Years, just as profound as Bob Dylan going from acoustic to electric music was him embracing Christianity and the Jesus people in the late 70s and made 3 religious albums, Shot of Love, Gotta Serve Somebody, and Slow Train Coming. And in learning Dylan's music, I put a band together, and because I interviewed Dylan's band members for my films, I said, hey, you want to join my band? So I would have 4 or 5 of Dylan's original band members in my band and play at the House of Blues. We toured England, Ireland, Canada, and I would tell the audience, I would say, hey, Bob Dylan's band has the original Bob Dylan, but I've got the original band. So it was really a thrill. I did that for many years. It slowed down the last couple of years because of COVID, but I became quite an expert on Bob Dylan. I interviewed Reuben Hurricane Carter, the boxer, of course, the subject of Hurricane, later became a movie with Denzel Washington. Hurricane was actually very guilty. He did kill those people, unfortunately. And I know so much about the music from performing it and was able to make actually 5 very successful documentaries on Dylan covering his entire career.
Absolutely amazing. Let me put you on the spot right now.
Sure.
Name your favorite Dylan album.
Favorite Dylan album?
Tough question.
Yeah, I would say, whichever one I'm performing or playing, you just love it each time. I'd say Bringing It All Back Home was probably still the album that I like the best of all of them.
I'd have to give it a tie. It's either Blood on the Tracks or the Freewheeling Bob Dylan, the first album.
I would not argue. They're all great. They're all great.
Very tough decision to make. So again, tell folks the time frame for the release of what I think is going to be one of the most powerful political movies of the next cycle. People need to understand that the presidential election of 2024 has already begun. It actually begins the minute that the previous presidential election is ended. I saw a great story in the Washington Post in which Barack Obama received Joe Biden, and Biden told him that he was running for re-election in 2024 because he was the only one who believed could beat Donald Trump. I had a very hard time stopping laughing after that. I think there's almost zero chance that he will run for re-election. We don't wish him any ill will, none whatsoever. But I do think, as Emerald Robinson said in the previous segment, and by the way, she's an incredible journalist, an incredible talent, someone I admire very much. But she said he's a dementia patient. I think it is absolutely clear that that is sadly the case. As you know, when he visited the Pope recently, it was reported widely in the Italian press that he had a bathroom accident, which essentially means he crapped his pants. And if you look at the photos of him prior to his meeting with the Pope, he's wearing a matching two-piece suit. And if you look at him after his meeting with the Pope, he's wearing the same suit jacket, but the pants are a different color and they don't match. So listen, I don't think he will be president after 2023. I think, as I've said, this is my prediction, the Democrats will replace him. Now, the polls already show that Kamala Harris is less popular than Spiro Agnew after Spiro Agnew had been indicted for and agreed to step down for corruption. She goes down in history as the most unpopular vice president in U.S. history. So while she may be a placeholder, I do not think she'll be the 2024 nominee. Now, she would, if this line of succession happened, have the opportunity to appoint a vice president, just as Richard Nixon appointed Gerald Ford to fill the vacancy caused by the resignation of Ted Agnew, but that would be subject to the confirmation of the U.S. Senate. Well, the confirmation of the Senate today under the leadership of Rhino Mitch McConnell may confirm a vice presidential nominee of Kamala Harris, but we don't know whether the Republican majority post-2022 election would do so. Of course, there is the possibility that Kamala Harris would appoint Hillary Clinton as her vice president, and if confirmed, Kamala Harris would need a food taster, in my opinion. Joel, on a scale of 1 to 10, tell us right now, what are the odds that Michelle Obama will be the Democratic nominee for President of the United States in 2024?
The answer, Roger, is 11. Answer is 11. The Democrats almost have no choice at this point. They have this agenda that's fallen apart on every level for the country. I am of the belief that actually they will try to hang on to Biden as long as possible, even if they have to prop him up like The Weeknd did Biden's type of movie, because he channels all the anger and disappointment personally. I think if you're angry at Biden right now and you blame him, you're kind of playing into their hands. And as long as they can keep that going, I think they'll do that. Michelle has had about $15 billion of free, positive, earned media in the past 12 years. She's the most popular person on the planet. So she's the type of person that can come in and say, I'm going to bring us all back together. We're going to have the nostalgia of the Obama years that you love. Everybody, you know, you love how much you loved it. And she's going to reluctantly say, well, you know, I hate politics, but I care about your children and I care about this nation. I want to bring us together. There have been some disappointments, but here's my plan. So I see that Democrats don't even have a choice at this point, but it's clear that Michelle has been preparing for this. I challenge everyone to look at her Twitter account and see what she's into every day. It's race, gender, and politics, pushing her agenda, self-promotion, her Spotify deal. People misinterpret that they just left Spotify, but in fact, Michelle did the Spotify deal for 2 years. She just promoted herself. She interviewed her family, Barack, she talked, she promoted her book. Now she's done with it. She has Netflix, she has all these other outlets, including the When We All Vote organization. And she's out there promoting herself all the time. And we've got the new Showtime, depiction of her as First Lady, where they're kind of trying to, people think she looks negative. In fact, I look at that differently. They're trying to build her strength among Black youth.
As one who believes that everything is optics, I'm kind of interested in the way that Michelle Obama has changed her look. She's gone from haute couture to a more stripped down community look. What's that all about?
Yeah, well, I follow her looks and her fashion quite a bit in my film, in my book. In fact, she was a huge big-time fashionista, top 25 best dressed international Vanity Fair 2004, 5, 6. In 2008, in the presidential election, she showed up on the campaign trail, this fashionista who used to go to Maria Pinto and Ikram Goldman and all the Chicago Gold Mile with all these fashion designers, and her Ronnie Flowers, her celebrity hairdresser who I met. She shows up on the campaign trail with Barack dressed like a hobo, like a homeless person, sometimes dressing up like a 1950s black Southern housewife, how she might imagine Black people are supposed to dress. And she intentionally tried to make herself look like just kind of one of the ordinary folks. No makeup, she didn't comb her hair. And you can see that in my film. It's actually quite almost comical, but it was an effort at manipulation. They're very strategic. The Obamas do everything strategically. And the last couple of years, you see her appearing on all these talk shows nonstop. She typically wears a very youthful blouse, tries to look very youthful, talk about her kids, talk about being a mom. It's all about outreach to kind of Hillary's constituency, the Oprah crowd, working mothers. She's always building, always marketing to her constituency, and she uses her clothing and her fashion very effectively to communicate things.
Well, there you have it, folks. Two grizzled veterans of the political war, Roger Stone and Joel Gilbert, both telling you, Monica Crowley, for whom we share a very high regard, I think in agreement, that Michelle Obama will be the Democratic nominee for President of the United States in 2024. Now I'm going to put forward my own prediction about her vice president. I believe the Democrats will nominate the current Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, for vice president. An African-American woman and a gay male would obviously cover two of the most important constituencies in today's Democratic Party. So you heard it here first, folks. For those of you who are saying, oh my God, if Stone is right and Gilbert's wrong, and Kamala Harris is going to ascend to the presidency, she'll be running the country. I don't really think we need to worry about that, whether I'm right or whether Joel's right. If Kamala Harris becomes president, the man who's running the country now will continue to run the country. That would be President Barack Hussein Obama. I think this is his third term. A ridiculous story coming out of the very same book that we cited earlier by Jonathan Martin of the New York Times, who I really wish would wear a necktie during his TV interviews, and Alex Byrne, one of the most incisive reporters at the time, who always is nattily turned out for his television appearances, claiming that Barack Obama is jealous of Joe Biden because Biden has a more transformative presidency. I don't believe that to be the case. Joe Biden could be seen recently on film shaking hands with somebody who didn't exist after a speech. He virtually openly admits that he's getting foreign policy advice from the Easter Bunny. But the real truth of it is the burden of the Hunter Biden's burgeoning laptop scandal, combined with high gas prices, food shortages, crippling inflation, and embarrassing defeat around the globe when it comes to foreign policy, will create a dynamic in which Joe Biden and his baggage are too heavy to carry in to the next presidential election. So I still stick to my prediction that the Democrats dump Biden after the election. And then we'll see a drama over who will or will not become a vice president. It's interesting to me that you can already see Hillary Clinton, who can't help herself, Joel, attacking Joe Biden. That's because she senses weakness and she sees a vacuum and perhaps another last grab for the presidency. You'll also notice that the Clinton Foundation and the Clinton Global Initiative, both of which had shut down, both of which were the vehicles for mass corruption in which special interests and countries were able to buy influence with the Clinton administration, have now both reopened their doors. Don't count Hillary Clinton out until they drive a stake through her heart. She's still bitter about the presidency, but make no mistake, this is a short-tempered, entitled, arrogant kleptocrat who believes wrongly that she was cheated out of the presidency. And right now, I would say she has her sights focused on both Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and her arch rival, Michelle Obama. I know Chicago Democrats. Believe it or not, a few of them are my friends. There is no love lost between the Obamas and the Clintons. One more time, Joel, what is the release date for your book and your movie?
Okay, we got July 11. I'm going to be at the National Press Club doing a screening of the film. And you can go to Michelle Obama 24. You can go there today. You're going to get my main website. In a couple of weeks, you'll have the film website and trailer. So we're still a couple months out, but on July 11, there'll be a big event. We're also looking at theatrical distribution. So we're hoping it'll be in movie theaters at least for one long weekend. The book will be on Amazon. The publisher is going to put it worldwide. So we're going to learn a lot about Michelle Obama. The few people like yourself that have seen the early copy of the film typically say that 80% of the information they had no idea. So a lot is going to be learned about Michelle Obama, and it's not going to be what Michelle Obama has been pushing about her life story all these years.
All right. Many thanks to Joel Gilbert, documentary filmmaker, perhaps the world's foremost expert on Bob Dylan and his music, conservative activist, great American, and very good friend. Thanks for joining us at the last minute here at the Stone Zone. God bless you.
Thank you so much.